Hello, I am Dr. Joe Miller. I am a co-author, along with Richard Wilcox and Sheila Pack-Damon, of an article that's recently appeared in Current Molecular Pharmacology called Theories and Treatment of Drug Dependency, a Neurochemical Perspective. There is a tremendous social cost to substance abusers, by substance abusers, and by individuals who become addicted to drugs. And yet, we know relatively little about the underlying mechanisms of drug addiction. In this paper, we attempt to summarize what is known and to hypothesize a mechanism that can explain both the effects of agents that work indirectly on dopamine neurons, as well as those addictive agents that work directly on dopamine neurons. We characterize like as an initial response to a drug that causes a release of dopamine in the nucleus accumbens. However, that phenomenon is short-lived, and there is an immediate homeostatic return to equilibrium under normal circumstances. However, the second stage that we see, we call want. In the case of want, the drugs here that seem to be most important are those that work directly on the dopamine neuron to elevate the release of dopamine. And as this happens, the subject will begin to show a sensitization response, and even more dopamine will continue to be released over time, rather than the self-limiting homeostatic mechanism that is associated with like. As want progresses, eventually the dopamine receptors, both D1 and D2 in a variety of areas, become downregulated. That downregulation means that to get any sort of response from the system, it's necessary to release even larger amounts of dopamine. That may continue into the condition we call need, which reflects extreme downregulation and ultimately a complete reduction of dopamine levels in the brain and dopamine effects. It is even possible that in later stages of want, there may be a depletion of dopamine from the dopamine neurons, resulting in something that may look quite a bit like Parkinson's disease. That is one of the speculations that we have that follows directly from this model. So what we see then is a progression from like, which anyone can experience following a reinforcing stimulus, but which is a short-lived phenomenon, followed by want, which is an exaggerated release of dopamine, often caused by agents that work directly on the dopamine neuron, such as amphetamine. And finally, the extreme downregulation that we see in D1 and D2 receptors on striatal neurons and also in the medial prefrontal cortex is associated with a vicious cycle in which it is necessary to release even more dopamine to get any sort of effect out of the system. And finally, we have the need state, which is associated with extreme depletion of dopamine and downregulation. Thank you very much. Goodbye.